Welcome back, everyone. And this is the course proper now. We're really going to get into it, Jack Green. I'm glad to have you with me. How are you today?
Yeah, really good. Excited about this and getting into this course.
Fantastic. Me too. So the theme for this week is to be intentional, to have intent in what we do. And this session in particular is going to be around looking at your why, finding your why, your wellness why, and really looking at why we should be investing time and resource in managing and proactively managing our well-being. So, Jack, as an athlete, I'd just be keen to understand a little bit about your perspective on finding your why, and I guess your broad sense of purpose.
Yeah, and this was something that was so important to me in my career, particularly my later career, because I didn't have a why as a young athlete before I really had those mental health issues. It was just a case of I'm good at something. I can run fast. I like winning things. And that's not particularly powerful when things go wrong, as I then found out when I struggled with my mental health. So it was about finding that purpose, finding that why. Why do you do something? And for me, as I went through my mental health journey, I realized that it was all about helping other people. So I understood that through my athletics, my career, the more successful I was on a track, the more I'd be able to help other people. So the more people I'd be able to speak to on things like this, which is fantastic, and share my story. And that all came from me being a successful athlete. And then even closer to home, the more successful as an athlete I was, the more I could help people in my circles, my close friends and family, by helping them with opportunities through maybe people I know or things that I've learned. So that was hugely motivating for me when things were difficult, not only at home, but on the track. It's a hard life being an athlete in the training. The rest of the time isn't so bad, but the training is particularly brutal. So when you're on the floor feeling absolutely shot, there's nothing left in you, it's a much more powerful to get you up off the ground when you can go, what is my purpose? What is my why? Right, that's it. I want to go towards that. I want to work towards that. So that was a huge part of me doing well in the later years of my career, was understanding why I did what I did.
Brilliant. And it's really interesting to hear that from the sort of elite athlete perspective. But, and I'm going to call them warriors, winter wellness warriors, our watchers, and it's all the W's, right? So our warriors who are on this journey with us about proactively managing mental well-being and well-being in general. How do they go and find their why in this context, and think around really why should we be on this journey and looking to do this over the winter? How would you just invite our warriors to find that purpose?
Yeah, I think it's just posing a few questions to yourself and maybe people around you as well, in terms of what do the next few months look like? What does the future look like? Am I prepared for it? Am I not only prepared in the plan moving forward, but acknowledging what it looks like and accepting it? And by that, I mean, it might not be great the next few months. We know that, but have we accepted it? Because as soon as you accept it, it allows you to move through it instead of having all this anxiety build up. So for me, I'm looking at moving forward. How's it going to look? How can I then prepare best? And through that, I will then find my purpose for this short time. We're not saying find your life purpose within lockdown. We're saying, what's your purpose for this moment in time when things are quite restricted? What am I going to do to look after myself, to maybe help other people? And that's what I'll be doing. I'll be looking at this next few months and thinking, how can I maximize this time when I'm feeling well? Not all the time, because we have our off days, but when I'm feeling great, what am I going to do to help myself and other people? All of my purpose over these next few months will be about how am I the best person I can be to help those around me.
I absolutely love that. And that you mentioned the word acceptance there. And I think acceptance is a very powerful tool, isn't it? Around when we're faced with difficult circumstances, we're often want to be anywhere but in that circumstance, or want to be anywhere back in our lives previously. Whereas a level of acceptance of what we're going through can be hugely powerful, can't it?
Yeah, and I think the whole time that we don't accept it, we're just pushing against a very closed, locked door and making life difficult for us, instead of accepting that, this isn't great, but I'm going to make the best of what I can. That's far more positive a mindset rather than this negative one that's just, well, this isn't great, I don't want to be in it. Well, we don't have too much control over that part, but what do I have control over? My own actions and myself. So I'm going to do what I can with that control. And that's something I had to learn during my own mental health journey and my career to really move forward.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love that what can we control? Control the controllables. It's a pretty good mantra, isn't it? And there is so much that we can't control right now that is having a negative or a challenging effect on our well-being, isn't there? Be it the restrictions on connecting with people and the distancing in a lot of territories that has to happen, the levels of stress that we're experiencing because of what's going on in the world. Those sort of things we can't necessarily control, but I guess we can control how we adapt to them, can't we?
Yeah, 100%. And what you were saying there almost sounds like our well-being's being attacked. And I know you've got some really good views on this, and ones I'd know other people, including and myself, would be really interested to hear. So
Yeah, and I think it is. In addition to that distancing and the lack of connection, the way we've been working, we've sort of sprinted to adapt to a very challenging global situation. But we've carried on sprinting for 7 months, and yet we find ourselves in a marathon. And Jack, as an athlete, trying to pace yourself around a track, we can't keep sprinting through this, can we? We've got to pace ourselves. We've got to adjust to the fact that we're in this for the longer haul than we expected. And we don't know where the end point is at the time of recording. So that creates a level of uncertainty. But I think we're working harder, those of us in work, than we've worked before. And yet we're not commuting in a lot of cases, and we're not walking to meeting rooms, but we're just layering meeting after meeting and one thing after another. And for me, I think there's an element of self-discipline and the literacy that we need to know how to prioritize our well-being. And we're going to go through in a later session on all the drivers of our form or our well-being. But I think for me, there's a few cornerstones of this course that is going to help people, and that's kind of providing the motivation. How do we get started? Providing the inspiration to do so, and part of this session of finding the why is all about that. But I think also providing the education on giving some literacy about how to go about actually achieving greater well-being at a time where it's definitely under stress. And the other question I had for you around this was kind of visualization. And again, I know as an athlete, you would use this tool quite a lot, and I'm sure you do as a well-being consultant. But I think there's something in there, isn't there, about visualizing who you're doing this for. It might be yourself, or it might be to be a better parent, or for your loved ones or your team. But I think understanding why you're on this journey is quite important too, isn't it?
yeah, I think it's the most important thing. And there's a few things there with visualization. I'm someone that really struggles to do it mentally, like just sit there in my head. I've always struggled with that. Some people are amazing at it, absolutely love it, and the science that's backed behind it is great. But I really struggle with it. So it's understanding that visualization isn't just sitting there and thinking about it. It can be writing it down. Written word can be just as powerful. Various other things. There's so many ways to visualize and make things happen. I've always had, my little goals boards and my to-do lists, and that doesn't mean that they're the big ones. They're not win the Olympics all the time. They're just little things, my day-to-day. That's visualizing. That's trying to create my future before it's happened. So that's another way of doing it. And in terms of the why, ask yourself what's important to you, and ask yourself what makes you happy. You'll soon find out your priorities, and you'll soon figure out why you do what you do, or why you should do something different, because it might not be aligned right now, which for a lot of us it isn't. And it's understanding that, the priority has to be you at first, and what makes you happy, and what you feel is important.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's interesting, the different mediums that we can use. Writing things down is great. And you said a to-do list, it just sparked off. And this will be quite random, everyone, by the way, because Jack and I will spark each other off, and we'll go off on different tangents. But you mentioned the to-do list, and one great concept I like is the done list. So you write things down that you've achieved. And again, right now, we're almost feeling guilty about celebrating our achievements or our successes, because there's so much tough stuff going on in the world. And I think we need to celebrate them more. But at an individual level, just writing down kind of things that you've achieved in the day can be pretty rewarding, and set ourselves up well for a good night's sleep and then the next day. So I've got another question for you. As we're at the start of the journey with our warriors, we're at the start of the winter wellness program that we're going to take everyone through. How do you sort of get your mind in the headspace to begin to prepare to train? You know, if you were as an athlete, got a big block of training ahead, what sort of things do you think of mentally prior to starting, before going on that program?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that acknowledgement and acceptance first. It's looking and seeing the bigger picture. Right, this is the big goal. This is what I need to do. Understanding there's a huge ladder you want to climb. You're looking at the top. That's where I'm going. But it's not just staying like that. I used to be like that. I'd look at the top, and then I think I was a failure all the time because I was stuck on the first, fifth, 10th run of the ladder instead of at the very top. Why am I not Olympic champion yet? In my case, was always my question. So then it's right. Here's my big goal, but how do I get there? And understanding there's a journey towards there. And that journey won't be smooth. It won't always be up. You might go a few steps up, you might come down a bit. But understanding all of that is part of how you then get to the top, because you're learning, you're experiencing, you're developing tools to allow you to get to where you want to be. And also understanding there isn't a time limit on anything. I wish there was. It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it, if we could go, right, I'm going to have good well-being in 3 hours. Brilliant. If I just do this. You know, we'd love to be in that world, but we're not robots. We are a huge variable being human beings. We're difficult. We're really difficult. I coach human beings. They're really difficult. But that's the challenge and that's the fun of it. So accepting no time limit, and there is a journey that I will have to take. Some people will get there quickly. Some people might not get there so quickly. But as long as we are progressing towards that, I think that's the most important thing. And that's how I used to look at my training. Here's the big picture, but each day, and even smaller than that, each thing I'm doing is part of that journey.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, our warriors are at the start of that journey. I think you've all taken the most important step, which is the first one, and you're here, you've shown up. So I am so grateful for you all showing up and coming on this journey with Jack and I. So thank you so much, and look forward to the next session.